We all know Old Trafford is a fortress, right? But what happens when 5,000 hooligans decide to invade? Well, in 1985 we found out, and let me tell you, it wasn't pretty. Back in the mid-80s, football was a whole different ballgame. It wasn't just about the matches, it was about the fans too, especially the die-hard supporters who were famous for their intense loyalty and sometimes even their fierce rivalries. One such group was West Ham's intercity firm, or ICF, known throughout England for their involvement in football hooliganism. Now that we are finally talking about the 1985 riot during the Man United vs West Ham match, picture this scene at Old Trafford. The stadium was buzzing, filled to the brim with fans ready for a heated league match. The visiting team, West Ham United, brought along not only their regular supporters, but also the notorious intercity firm. For those out of the loop, the ICF wasn't just any fan group. They were among the most feared hooligans in England, taking their name from using the rail network to travel to away games and, unfortunately, stir up trouble. On that day, about 5,000 ICF members had travelled to Manchester. From the get-go, the atmosphere was electric and tense. The stewards and police knew they were in for a tough day, but they didn't fully know the extent of what was about to happen. When the match kicked off at Old Trafford, so did the trouble. Almost right away, fights started popping up in the stands and even around the stadium. The police were really stretched thin, trying to handle the situation, because the intercity used their numbers and the element of surprise to their advantage. The whole scene was pretty shocking. What made it even more outrageous was that it happened at Old Trafford. By the end of the day, there were a bunch of arrests and several people were hurt. It turned out to be one of the darker days in the history of English football. After all that chaos, people really started paying attention. The football community and the UK government knew they had to do something to stop this from happening again. They came up with some new laws to cut down on football-related violence. One big change was the sporting events, control of alcohol, etc. Act of 1985. This law banned the sale of alcohol in certain parts of sports venues and on public transport on the way to games. It targeted the role alcohol often played in fueling the violence. This move also helped shift the culture of football in England. The sport started to shed its violent image and began to be something families could enjoy together. Football clubs took steps to create a more welcoming environment, helping to change how people saw the game. These efforts have really changed football into a safer, family-friendly event. Clubs now focus on making sure fans of all ages feel welcome and safe, with a big emphasis on community and having a good time. Looking back, it's clear that the tough times with hooliganism marked a turning point for English football. The changes that were made back then were necessary, and they've helped make the exciting and safe stadium atmosphere we enjoy today. It shows how much the sport has evolved and keeps reminding us how important it is to keep up the good work to maintain the true spirit of sportsmanship. It's pretty cool to see how sports can lead the way in bringing people together and making positive changes in society. From those rough days to now, it's a big change that shows what we can do when we all work together. Now that I have your attention, here are 5 key players of this epic game. Let's see how their performance was and where they are now. Well, the thing is, Manchester United and West Ham United were 2 clubs that stood out with their incredible talent and thrilling matches, and it would be a shame if we did not discuss them. First up, Manchester United. Ever heard of Brian Robson? Well, he was known as Captain Marvel to the fans. Robson joined United in 1981 from West Bromwich Albion, and boy, was he a force on the field. He was a midfield general, always running, tackling and scoring when it mattered most. Injuries did hold him back at times, but whenever he was in the game, he was the driving force for the team. After hanging up his boots, Robson took to managing teams, including Middlesbrough and even the Thailand national team. Nowadays, he's often seen promoting Manchester United around the world in his role as an ambassador for the club. Then there's Norman Whiteside. This guy was making waves as the youngest ever to play for United's first team at just 16. Hailing from Northern Ireland, he was tough, strong, and had a killer shot. His shining moment, scoring the winner in the 1985 FA Cup final against Everton. That goal sealed his legendary status, and we can't forget about Gordon Strachan. This Scottish international came to United in 1984 and brought a spark of creativity to the midfield. Known for his sharp passing and set-piece prowess, Strachan was always working hard and playing smart, making a solid impact during his time with the team. Now, switching gears to West Ham United. Let's talk about Tony Cottee. A true product of West Ham's youth system, Cottee broke into the first team in 1982. Fast and a fantastic finisher, he was a scoring machine in the 80s. His dynamic duo with Frank McAvenny in the 1985-86 season was unforgettable, helping West Ham nail a third-place finish in the league. Like many former sports stars, Cottee moved into punditry. He's shared his football knowledge as a commentator and pundit on various sports shows, giving fans his take on the latest matches and news in football. Speaking of Frank McAvenny, this guy came to West Ham in 1985 and immediately started knocking goals in. His partnership with Cottee was electric. They were the talk of the town during their spectacular run in the league. McAvenny wasn't just a star on the field, his lively personality made him a media darling too. Post-retirement, McAvenny has stayed in the limelight, especially around Scotland. He's a popular speaker at events, known for his entertaining stories and charismatic presence. He's also dabbled in TV and remains a beloved figure in the sports community. Lastly, there's Alvin Martin, a one-club man who played his entire career at West Ham. As a defender, Martin was the rock at the back. His game understanding and dedication made him a fan favourite and a true leader on the field. And get this, he once scored a hat-trick against 3 different goalkeepers in a single game against Newcastle in 1986. Now, that's something you don't see every day. These players didn't just play football, they defined an era. Their incredible skills and memorable performances left a lasting legacy that still excites fans today. They played through some challenging times, with the shadow of football hooliganism looming over the sport, but their impact on the game was undeniable. All in all, back in 1985, Old Trafford saw a bad day in football history when 5,000 hooligans, part of the intercity firm, caused chaos during a match. It was a tough day that ended with arrests and injuries, showing the dark side of football fan culture. But it wasn't all bad news. This incident led to big changes, making football games safer and better for families. New laws were made, and clubs started focusing more on community and safety, completely changing the vibe at football matches. It's been quite a journey from those rough times to the friendly stadium atmospheres we enjoy today. It shows how sports can lead to positive changes in society, turning bad situations into chances to bring people together and inspire. If you liked this look back at an important moment in football history, why not give a thumbs up and subscribe for more content? And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. How do you think football has changed for the better since the 80s?